I have a simple mantra that I follow to avoid burnout, to avoid exhaustion, and manage my stress. It's very simple. I basically take on the persona of an athlete. The mantra that I follow is number 1, train like an athlete. Number 2, win like an athlete. And number 3, recover like an athlete. When I was running my own company, there were certain years where I prided myself in being the always on CEO. I worked 100 hours a week. I only got 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I skipped workouts, I ate when I could. Ironically, those were not the years where we did our best work. Those were not the years where I was the most successful. Those were not the years where my company hit their biggest goals. Ironically, the years where I treated myself like an athlete and I proactively managed my time, I proactively managed my work, I proactively managed self-care, those were the years where I crushed it and the company crushed it. In this episode, I want to talk about mental health, I want to talk about burning out, and I want to talk about how to manage against it. Intro. What's up everybody, I'm TK and you are watching another Unstoppable Sunday. Unstoppable Sunday is all about living a more proactive life. It's all about taking 15 minutes and answering these 2 questions. Number 1, where am I? And number 2, what do I do next? All of this is designed so we can go into the week with a plan, we can go into the year with our goals, and we can go ahead and be proactive about our lives instead of reacting our way through it. If you're new to this community, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button because we publish a video like this every Sunday to help you be more proactive in life. And this year, we are actually on a mission to help 1,000 people be more proactive in their lives. So if you find this video helpful, hit the like button because that way your friends and your colleagues can find out about this and we can help even more people. In today's episode, I want to talk about the idea of burnout. We've all been guilty of it. Somewhere along the way, we started to talk more about the number of hours we work, how hard we work, and just how much we're hustling and grinding. We started talking more about that instead of focusing on whether we're winning or we're succeeding or we're accomplishing our goals, regardless of how long it took us. Interestingly enough, if you kind of follow the sports analogy, no one actually remembers or cares how long the game was. No one cares if it went into overtime or not, or which specific player was in the game and for how long. But at the end of the day, what matters is which team won the championship and which team won the game. For some reason, we started to fixate on how many hours we work, even though that's not the thing that yields the best results. No one cares if a football game went for an hour, went for 2 hours, went into overtime. All that matters is who won the game. So in my quest to winning, one of the things I grappled with the most and thought about the most was the idea of burnout. Harvard Business Review had an amazing article about burnout. They define burnout as when relentless work stress pushes you into a debilitating state. They also go on to describe exactly what burnout is, in case you're not quite sure what it is. Burnout, they say, have 3 key characteristics. Number 1, you feel exhaustion. Number 2, you start to detach from your work and start to feel a level of cynicism. And number 3, deep down inside, you start to feel incompetent. You don't quite trust yourself anymore in your ability to do the work. So you're exhausted, you're kind of cynical about what you're working on and you're not sure about your purpose anymore. And number 3, you're not even sure you could do the job anymore. That sounds horrible. The worst part about all this is, number 1, we're obsessed with talking about how hard we're working. And number 2, when we do get into burnout, we are so thick in it, we can't even identify that we're burned out. And even if we do, even if we say like, man, I'm way more exhausted, I kind of don't like my job anymore. Even if all those things are true, we're so thick in it, we can't actually get ourselves out of it and say, you know what, maybe I should take a few days off. Because there's just so much going on, you can't even take the time off. The only way you can avoid burnouts is if you actually proactively manage for it. I understood the importance of proactively managing for it because I started to recognize that the years where I managed for burnout were the years where I succeeded more. My company succeeded more. My team was more successful. And so I started to develop this mantra of train like an athlete, win like an athlete, and recover like an athlete. And when you think about it in the terms of an athlete trains, so that's all the self-help and the education that we put our time into to learn how we can do our jobs better. There's winning like an athlete, which is going in and actually playing the game, whether it's the 40-hour work week you want to do or the 50-hour work week, or if you want to do a 100-hour work week, fine, but it's identifying when are you playing the game, and then leaving the game, whether you won or lost. There has to be a definite end time for the game, and then going and recovering like an athlete. All three are super important if you want to actually proactively manage burnout and have successful years. That's at least what I realized. Now, the question becomes, how do you actually manage for burnout? Well, the basics that I incorporated over the last few years are pretty simple, and you kind of know about it. I started working out 3 times a week. I started scheduling in my meals to make sure that I kind of eat the same thing so I don't have to think about it, and it's relatively healthy. And I started meditating. I've actually been practicing transcendental meditation for the last 10 years, and it's been hugely life-changing. So those are the basics. Those are simple, and everyone kind of knows it, and if you're not doing it, you should just start doing it. It's not that complicated. But the one non-obvious thing that I started to do that really made the biggest difference for me, the one thing that I started to do, which I talk about all the time on this channel, is I started to take stock of my next 7 days, and I started to take stock of my next 365 days. So first thing I started to do is this thing, Unstoppable Sunday. Every Sunday I sat down and I started asking myself, where am I and what do I do next? And then I started to say, all right, what is the next 365 days of the year? Where am I gonna be in each of those days? Where am I traveling? What commitments do I have? And then most importantly, I started to actually plan in recovery time into my schedule. The way I did this, I used this 365-day spreadsheet that we give you under Unstoppable's life planning guide. And instead of using a calendar, I like using a spreadsheet because it helps me map out and get a feel for the next 365 days. And what I started to do was actually map out my recovery time. So what I said is every 6 weeks, I would actually schedule in recovery time on the weekends, and it kind of triggered for me like, all right, either I need to go away somewhere, or I need to take a few hours for myself, or I need to take Friday off and kind of recover and regroup and figure out where I am. I need to go take a trip somewhere, any of those things. But I slotted it in every 6 weeks so that not only would I train like an athlete, win like an athlete, but I scheduled in time to recover like an athlete. This 365-day exercise we teach you how to do in the life planning guide, and we give you the template too, actually lays out the entire year for you. And you can see this is my actual schedule. This is my 365-day calendar, and you can see I mapped all of it out. I have my vacations in here, I have my time commitments, my travel commitments in here, but most importantly, every 6 weeks, I have my avoid burnout weekends. And mind you, this is a pretty simple schedule because I'm just in a time in my life where I have a bunch of downtime. I'm in between projects. But I assure you, the last 10 years, it looked a lot more complicated. I had a lot more travel. And doing this exercise gave me 2 things. Number one, it helped me take a look at my schedule, my travel schedule, my time commitments, and helped me get proactive about, well, what am I prioritizing, what am I not? And it's like, am I actually gonna survive this? Am I going through 8 cities in a 10-day period, and does that make sense? Or do I need to kind of reprioritize things and make more smarter decisions about where I'm spending my time? But more importantly, the second thing it did is within the context of all of my commitments, it ensured that every 6 weeks, I blocked in time to avoid burnout. My avoid burnout weekends, I either scheduled a trip out to Carmel, I love going out to Carmel, or I visited family, or I just stayed in my own city but took Friday and Monday off so that I could focus on the strategy for my life. So remember, if you actually want to have the best years of your life, you got to get proactive and you got to make sure that you train like an athlete, win like an athlete, and actually recover like an athlete. If you're looking to take a more proactive approach to your life, that's what we do here at Unstoppable. We have an entire 30-page guide for free that you can download. It includes all these templates. It teaches you how to pause and reflect every Sunday. It teaches you how to actually plan out your 365 days. And it teaches you how to have a vision for yourself over the next 5 years that you can slowly drive towards. We teach you all those things. We teach you the strategies that you need to be more proactive in life. I followed this system over the last 10 years, and it has unlocked a decade of productivity and success for me. And that's why we're doing this. We want to package it all up, and we want to help 1,000 people this year be more proactive in their lives. So if anything you want to take away from this episode is schedule in recovery time. Go into your calendar, go into whatever you use to keep track of your time, and schedule that in every 6 weeks. And if you want to get more proactive about your life, follow the link below for our life planning guide, and we'll teach you a lot more. I'm TK, thank you for watching Unstoppable, and remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life, but yours needs to be unstoppable. I'll see you next Sunday.